The Catcher and the Tears of an Angel. Though it had only been less than half of a day, I felt as if I was already drained of all energy that would help me to continue any further. I had decided to hang out in my car, right outside of the plant, and watch anime instead of getting lunch since my appetite was non-existent at that point. What started out with me masturbating in the front seat to the end credits of High School DxD Season 2 turned into me masturbating to Koori Kunanaka from Koi Kishi Purely Kiss, and after I ejaculated, I couldn't help but sit there sobbing to myself. Not from the guilt of jacking off, but from the guilt of allowing Phoebe to go through so much torment. I had to attempt to try and make things right again. I returned to the filthy room in which Phoebe was still located. After taking the lock off the door, I opened it to see that she was still in the same position from a couple hours ago. She was lying on the floor with her head resting on the camo bag. It was unbelievably surreal to watch her sitting there with fake eyes and unnaturally large breasts that weighed down on her. The poor girl's hair and face were covered in blood as well. I walked over and sat down beside her. "Hey, are you awake, Phoebe? I did bring you some more water, but I also brought you some crackers. You really need to eat something." She moved her head slightly in the direction of where my voice was coming from. "I'm not hungry," she said in a tired, scratchy voice. "Then at least drink the water." Phoebe opened her mouth a little, and I helped pour the water into her mouth. I held it at an angle so that only a little water would pour out at a time, so that she wouldn't be overwhelmed and end up choking on it. "Just have a cracker, please, just one." I put the cracker in her hand. "It's there when you need it," I said. "Thank you." She picked up the cracker and took a small nibble from it. I started to tear up again while watching her attempt to eat the cracker. "I can't apologize enough. I didn't want this. I never wanted this." "What?" she asked while putting down the cracker. "My own self-centeredness allowed for this to happen, but I didn't know he was going to do this to you." She turned her head to face the direction I was in. "Tell me, why are you being kind to me now? Why all this just to be kind?" I really didn't have a proper answer for her. "I don't know. I never know what I want or what I'm doing. But I know you don't deserve any of this." Bloody tears started to trickle down Phoebe's face. "I don't want to forgive you. I know I should, but I don't want to forgive you." "Then don't! I don't deserve the freedom that forgiveness brings." "Bear with each other and forgive one another if any of you has a grievance against someone. Forgive as the Lord forgave you." I paused, surprised by what she said. "Is that the Bible?" "Colossians 3:13. "What are you trying to say?" "I'm trying to say that if it were up to me, I'd hate you with all my heart. That's why I need something to help me." "And that something is God? That's what you're saying?" She laid there saying nothing for what seemed like 20 seconds. "You know, when I was 12, my mom killed herself. My dad was the one that found her hanging in the bedroom closet. She was very troubled, and she had a hard time expressing those feelings." "I'm sorry," I said, trying to understand where this was going. "I hated myself for the longest time. I thought I was the reason she did what she did. After all, she was always yelling at me." "That sounds horrible." She was starting to cry even more now. You could hear the phlegm building up in her nose and her throat. "I just wanted her to be happy. I just wanted a normal family. I never felt like I had one, and when she took her life, it was like I'd never have the chance. It made me hate her. You'll never know how I hated her. The only thing is, that made me feel guilty. That guilt would then make me hate myself." "How did you overcome such a thing?" I had a really good therapist, she said while trying to form a smile. Her name was Charlotte Finley, and she helped me understand why things were the way they were. She helped me to understand that my mom needed more help than me, or my little brother, or even my dad were capable of giving her. She also helped me to understand that the feelings of hate were my subconscious mind's way of protecting itself. Even if it's against yourself, hate and anger gives you a false feeling that you're in control, when it couldn't be further from the truth. It was me in defense mode because I didn't want the feelings of grief. You feel weak and defenseless when you're sad. Charlotte told me that we need to feel sad and vulnerable sometimes so that we can accept our reality and move on, or else we stay stuck. If all you ever do is hide in darkness, then eventually the light will stop looking for you. That's what she used to say to me. Ah, I see. That's why I wanted to become a therapist. I feel there aren't enough who care anymore. Who's gonna help the little girl or boy deal with those thoughts and feelings they don't understand? Who's gonna help them if nobody cares? If it's all just a paycheck and nothing else? That was my calling, you know. I started to tear up again. I had taken that from her, and I was certain that she was never gonna fulfill her dream. I was involved with ending your dream. How could that be forgiven? I cried. Because I know God forgave me. He opened my heart and helped me to not feel alone. Even though I hated him too, he still loved me and saved me from myself. Believe me, when my dad would drop me off at Sunday school, I was the kid from hell. I had no desire for any of that, but one day I remember I felt like my therapy wasn't enough. The feelings were coming back, and I just wanted to die. I remember locking myself in the closet and asking for Jesus to come into my heart. And you know what? I could feel something there with me. I can't even begin to describe it. I'm not perfect, but I try. And that's all that can be expected of any of us. So you're saying I need God too? I asked, shocked by the absurdity of her justifications. If you want him, he'll have you, but that might not be where you're at right now. What do you want? I was perplexed by her question. I really don't have a clue. I can't figure out what I'm doing with my life. I can't even figure out what my dream meant. Dream? She asked. I had this hentai-inspired dream where... Hentai? Yes. What's that? Anime porn. Oh. Okay. Anyways, I was having this hentai-inspired dream where I was in a field of green hair, and I kept trying to stop anime girls from going over a cliff. I tried my best to grab them, but they kept going over the edge. Like Catcher in the Rye. I was shocked yet again. It reminded you of that too? She slowly nodded her head. It's very similar. I read that book in high school. You know why Holden sees himself as the catcher in the rye, right? Can't say I do. It's been a while since I've glanced over it. I just remember his classic monologue. The cliff symbolizes the pressures and responsibilities that come with adulthood. Holden is fighting to not only stay in the field of rye, but also thinks he's doing it in order to save the innocence of others. He thinks he's this hero with a cause, but he's really just selfish and immature. He needs a reason to justify him being an adolescent for as long as he can. I wasn't entirely sure how this related to me. What are you saying? That I'm hiding from adulthood? That the abyss over the cliff was a good thing? I don't know you, so I'm not sure. Well, we can't all be Christians. Is that it? I should just worship God? I was starting to get very angry. I wasn't saying that at all. I was just telling you why it was possible for me personally to move on from trauma and how I could forgive you for what you've done to me. But I am saying maybe you need something more than just anime girls and porn. Nonsense, I declared. Then you'll stay in that field of hair forever. I was about to respond until I heard the door to the plant swing open and a voice calling out, "What's up, retards? I'm back!" Within 15 seconds, Nez was standing in the doorway of the room. "How was your break?" I asked with a slight hint of disgust. "Oh, it was too long if you ask me," he said while turning his focus towards Phoebe lying on the floor. "However, someone important is gonna sit in on the last bit of the experiment. I'm annoyed that it's so last second, but it's probably best that he's here for this." "Just tell me," I demanded. "Who could possibly want to be here for this?" A familiar voice answered that question for me. "Why, it is I who desires to be in attendance for this deliciously nefarious scenario of naughty decadence." Sylvester, the Lord of Hentai himself, was standing right beside Nez. This time he was wearing a white and black Danganronpa-themed hoodie that was unzipped in order to show off his white shirt, which had a picture of Miku Nakano on it. I'm sure he was proud of that shirt since he is known for his love of dandares. "My lord," I proclaimed as I kneeled before him. "You may rise, future cardinal." He gestured for me to stand back on my feet before continuing. "Darren Tinklesfitz has told me all about this grand experiment you concocted." "I told you not to fucking call me that," Nez interrupted. "It's Nez or the Archbishop, but not Darren Tinklesfitz." Sylvester let out a playful laugh, but that only infuriated Nez even more. "But I believe that is your birth name, is it not? I shall call you Nezumi, but I shall never call you Nez. It is far too casual and Neanderthalic for someone with the title of Archbishop." "Whatever," Nez said, while scrunching his face up like a disappointed child who was denied opening his Christmas presents on Christmas Eve. "Good," Sylvester continued. "Now that pleasant misunderstandings such as that have been stifled, we may now commence with our matters of importance. We have much to discuss, Mr. Richardson." I bowed my head before I said those obedient words. "As you wish, my lord of Hentai." A flattening of emotions. I walked out of the room with Sylvester and Nez accompanying me. As I walked with them, I couldn't seem to shake what Phoebe had said during our conversation. All her talk of how we need to put the past behind us, talking as if I'm running away from something I haven't faced yet, insinuating that there's more to life than hentai, implying that I use my love of anime girls to escape facing the realities of my adult life. Next, I suppose she'll claim that having an anime girl as your VTuber persona when you're a 31-year-old man is slightly weird. This, of course, is all nonsense. But even still, the thought crossed my mind that she may be right. What if I was wasting my life? What if all I was doing was frittering away my existence in this fantasy world because I feared my reality? What if my love of hentai and fear of leaving that field of hair was causing me to turn into a desensitized monster? The funny thing is that the last part, especially, might be correct. I had sat by and watched Nez abuse Phoebe without mercy, and not only that, but a part of me enjoyed it. Even without the demon power, there was a part of me that secretly liked the abuse. How could I have possibly found enjoyment in the torment of that inspiring angel? The only logical reasoning would be that I was becoming a demon. After all she's been through, she still carried on with so much hope. But that meant nothing to me. I thought my sexual gratification and my future as the Cardinal of Hentanica exceeded her right to a life of happiness. I am a demon. "I wanted to speak with you about your experiment," Sylvester said, interrupting my train of thought. "What do you want to know, Lord?" I asked respectfully, though a nervousness in my voice betrayed me. "Please call me Sylvester. As much as I adore that self-bestowed title, My name shall suffice. I wish to speak of your hesitancy towards the experiment. Now I was really starting to feel nervous. It was as if he was reading my thoughts. What would happen if I told him that I was having doubts about becoming the Cardinal? Oh? What makes you say that? I said while trying not to gulp. Our dear Nezumi told me so. He told me how you rushed through dressing that tasty girl in that delightful maid outfit as if you were ripping off a bandage. Care to explain? I had to think of a lie. I pre-ejaculate super easily, sir. I didn't want to get too excited, so I rushed through putting on her sexy maid outfit. He gave me a distrusting look. Though I find that highly relatable, and in most other cases that would appear probable, for you it seems to be false. Not suggesting that you don't suffer from the pre-ejaculation dilemma, but in this instance you are covering up your true intentions. Nezumi also told me that you stopped him from inserting an egg into the lady's vagina. Your reasons? I am certain that I was sweating a little. I just thought it wasn't necessary for the experiment that we're doing. Yeah, because you suck, Nez interjected. Sylvester gestured for Nez to calm down. I know that it's upsetting, Nezumi, but you should not be so surprised. Roger seems like the type to have never even seen Shiku Kanajo. Yeah, because he sucks. He doesn't even like a single lolly. Sylvester laughed, almost indicating agreement. That may or may not be the case, but for now we'll chalk it up to being less cultured, he said, before turning his attention towards me. Whether it was imperative to the experiment is not the point. The point is your unwillingness to push the limits of sexual expression. Bakunoganin is putting an immense amount of faith in your ability to become the Cardinal, but your fellow clergymen have yet to have that level of reassurance. If you're unable to take a life or forcibly dress a girl in a maid outfit or shove an egg up the vagina of a woman, then how can you expect to stand tall amongst the weebs? Hentanica is counting on you. The Seven are counting on you. And both of us are counting on you. The Seven must be freed from their realm, and we cannot execute the game until the Cardinal position is filled. Once they enter our reality, they will bring us real waifus. We will become the unholy hentai trinity, and we will reign over the weeaboos. Doesn't that sound like a beautiful dream, Roger? Wouldn't you like to have a Momo or a Rune fillet your wiener every night? I was feeling conflicted again. That does sound amazing, but what game? I asked. He smiled at me before shaking his head. The exact information of the game will not be given to you until you have officially become the Cardinal. All I will say is that the game is essential to our cause. Our very being hinges upon its success. But none of that is essential to you until you finish the task at hand. Your experiment must be completed at once. Come outside with me. We walked out of the plant in silence. When we were outside, I noticed there was a vehicle normally used for construction placed in front of a large sheet of paper that looked about 12 feet in length and 6 feet in width. What is that thing? I asked, trying not to shit my pants. That machine is a double drum roller. They are quite handy when it comes to flattening and paving asphalt. You are about to witness another use for them. He turned towards Nez. Nezumi, make yourself useful and fetch that lovely young lady. Don't have to tell me twice, Nez excitedly said as he walked hastily back into the plant. What's going on? I asked. You are creating a real-life anime girl for your experiment, are you not? So, what's your point? He laughed and shook his head once again. I thought it should be obvious by now. What qualities do anime girls possess that real girls don't? Real girls are not two-dimensional. Wait, you don't mean... Just as I was putting the pieces together, Nezumi came out of the plant with Phoebe. She had shackles on her hands and legs. The way he was manhandling her was causing me to become extremely aggravated, but also a little sexually excited. I felt the demon power inside of me start to flare up. "Lay her on the sheet of paper," Sylvester ordered. "You heard the man," Nez yelled as he dragged her over to the large piece of paper by her hair. "Roger," Sylvester said. "You are going to prove yourself right now. You are going to prove yourself to us, to the Seven, and to yourself that you are the Cardinal. Take hold of that machine and flatten that girl. Cause her to become one with the paper. You can think of it as a little piece of colored manga after you're done." I froze up. The feelings inside of me were peaking with their continuously conflicting tendencies. How could I kill this innocent girl? The very idea was pure evil. However, it was part of my destiny to be the Cardinal. I would be able to have actual waifus too. Even still, it's not my place to end this girl's existence just because I'm tired of ejaculating all over my pillows alone. Despite the demon power urging me otherwise, I had made my decision. "No, I won't," I said finally. Sylvester did not look too pleased. "How disappointing you are, Roger. I believe a punishment is in order. Nezumi, will you kindly show Mr. Richardson how much of an artist you are?" "Hell yeah!" Nez screamed in delight. Nez jumped up on the roller and situated himself comfortably. There was no way I could let this happen. I had to save her from this awful fate. I started to run over to her, but Sylvester saw that I was on my way to save her, so he pulled out his infamous assassination classroom gun and pointed it at me. There was no other option but to stop. "Let's not get any heroic ideas. I know you have heard of my experiment with Harper, so I know you know what is in this gun. I am going to blow you to kingdom come if you even think about saving her." "But it isn't right. She doesn't deserve this fate. I respected you once, but now I feel like I'm seeing you for who you are. What gives you this right?" Sylvester stood there grinning while continuing to point the gun at me. "Right? My right is that if I can, I do. There is nothing morally right or wrong about it. Besides, I believe that if there is a God, he made flesh a perfect alibi." "No, please," I heard Phoebe scream. I started to cry as I turned towards that beautiful angel lying helplessly on the paper. She didn't deserve this horrible fate. She deserved paradise, far away from the devils that inhabit this earth. Through my sobbing, I could hear her saying a final prayer. "Dear God, please forgive me of my sins. I know everything is part of your plan, but please watch over me. I'm so scared. I'm so scared to die. But if it means an eternity with you, then take me home. Just promise me that my mom will be there too, and that she'll be healed. Please, just promise me that, God." "Shut up," Nez yelled at Phoebe. "How's about you send my regards to Satan, bitch?" I have never seen a more horrific sight in my entire life, and I don't believe I will ever again. Starting with her legs, the machine slowly rolled over Phoebe. Nez was laughing uncontrollably. He was more than likely getting a massive boost of demon power as well. You could see the machine crush every inch of her body underneath the pressure of the drums until she was nothing more than a squished pile of bloody bones, skin, and organs splattered across the giant piece of paper. Sylvester holstered his gun, pleased with the end of the experiment, as well as the pain I was feeling from Phoebe's death. I definitely could tell Nez was happy with the look of defeat written on my face. "Uh-oh. People usually look better in anime form, but your girlfriend might be the exception, eh, Roger?" Nez said mockingly. What happened next you probably didn't see coming. I felt something change in me. Human life just seemed so meaningless now. With that in mind, I walked over to a nearby dumpster where I saw a rusty metal pipe. Picking it up, I walked over to a cackling Nez and smashed his kneecap. Naturally, he fell on his ass. "You bastard! Sylvester, help!" he screamed. Sylvester was watching, but surprisingly did nothing. He just stood there with no expression on his face. It was like he was watching a movie that neither bored nor interested him. Realizing that Sylvester was allowing this, I continued to beat Nez with a pipe. I smashed his legs until I was sure he wouldn't be able to walk. After throwing down the pipe, I walked over to the roller and situated myself comfortably. "Haven't you always wanted to be an anime character?" I asked. "It's every weeb's dream, right?" I started to roll over his feet, listening to the bones crack as I did so. "You fucking cunt! I'm going to fucking kill you and piss on your rotting corpse, you fucker!" he shrieked while in agony. The machine slowly made its way down his body until it reached his head. My favorite part was how his rat-like head popped like a pimple, spraying blood and brain matter all over the paper. As I was doing this, I started to obtain an insane amount of demon power. It was so powerful that I was starting to get aroused by my violent act. The arousal continued to grow and grow along with the power. So much so that I believe my wiener even gained an extra inch. It's funny, I even had an orgasm. Easily the best orgasm of my life so far. "Well done, Mr. Richardson," I could hear Sylvester call out. I dismounted the roller and approached him. "What are you playing at?" "I believe you had the orgasm you needed in order to take your place as the Cardinal. You've completed your experiment after all." "How's that?" "Nez was the one that did the experiment," I said, puzzled by Sylvester's words. "True to an extent. Phoebe was his experiment, and as it turned out, he was yours. You may wonder why I refrained from stopping you. I could have easily sent you to join the choir invisible with my gun. I refrained because Bakunuganen told me to. You see, both him and I realized something about you. We saw that you weren't ready to take a life. Most people are not ready to take a life, but everyone is capable of it. They just need to be pushed to that point. Who better to push you than Nezumi, am I right? He is quite the character." "But he was the Archbishop. Now what?" "That is indeed an inconvenience, but not the end of the world. We already have a few other candidates. Besides, we now have our Cardinal, and that is far more important." He turned to walk away, but then he turned to face me again. "Come. There's so much we need to accomplish. The rest of the 7 cannot wait to meet you." "Of course," I said in obedience. As I was following him, I made one last glance towards the bloody mess that was Phoebe. Everything she told me just seemed worthless now. All that she held dear in this world could not save her from the cruelty that it will inevitably inflict on the people that reside in its hellish grasp. The pointless struggle to move forward only led to her demise. There's no point when the war is already lost, so you might as well wail and weep to the saddest of songs. I won't make the same mistake as Phoebe. I choose to remain in the field catching those anime women forever. Not a single one will slip through my fingers. I will reign in that field of hair as a king over my dominion. I am the Cardinal of Hentanica. Super kawaii. Taken from the perspective of Harper West. Let the game begin. I feel like I've been driving for a while now. I'm so tired, but I can't fall asleep. Not till I make it to the cabin. I know people are after me because I see them everywhere. There have been a couple different people I've spotted, but the one I usually see is a girl. It's not like I don't know who it is either, since she sat behind me senior year in homeroom. I'd remember her dyed purple and blue hair anywhere. Her name was Vesper, but there wasn't much else I knew about her except that she was obsessed with anime. I liked anime too, but definitely not like this girl. One day she wanted to be called Vesper-chan and was furious when people didn't call her that. I have no clue why she of all people is following me though. I'm guessing it has to do with that man too. Everything seemed to happen after that horrible day. I'll never get his basement out of my head. He tried to fuck me with an exploding dildo, you know? No therapy can take that away. I can't even watch an anime anymore without feeling sick. Right now, what I really need is closure. My sister's friend contacted me 2 days ago about a cabin up in the mountains. He told me to meet him there and for me to try my best not to be followed. I asked him why, but he kept it vague. Something about an ancient book and a game that would be detrimental to the human race. I don't know what kind of game he's talking about, but I'm not so sure I want to find out. What I want is to make that man pay, and I will do anything to see that happen. Lord of Hentai, I'm coming for you. Mark my words, I will come for you.